this is Jeanette Kane from Jewelry Arts Inc. In this video, I'm going to show you how we brought a melted cap back from the dead and into a glorious new life.
So in the spirit of fuckery is the norm, we have a little scenario here in the studio. So Nancy made this beautiful Queen Puabi bead and granulated on it. But then when she was putting her bail on, this happened when I was not in the studio, so I can't personally attest to what happened, but some kind of fuckery has ensued, and we've got like a hole in the top. Now, this was still attached over here, so I basically said, no worries, pull that jump ring off of there, we can reuse it. And there are definitely times with projects where you have to just say, look, I gotta start over, and that's the best thing. But for this, I said, well, why don't we just make him a cute little hat? He'll be double-decker, it'd be very cute, and no one will ever know that you did it unless they watch this video, that we had to do it to solve a problem. So all we did was like, you know, this piece was made in the number 67 Queen Puabi die right there, makes that beautiful shape. So what we did is we made a little circle of gold, and Nancy kind of, you know, tapped it in there to get that same nice shape, right? And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna solder this little cutie on. I'll try to like line it up nicely. But you see what I mean? And then everyone's gonna be like, oh, double decker, I love it. I have to tell you that 99% of the time I make a change to a design because I've had a problem. That's the thing that people love the most. Like if I melt something and whatever, they're like, oh, the texture, how'd you get that, or something. So it's like a thing. There's nothing wrong with starting over when you need to, but the truth is a lot of times there are solutions. So all we're gonna do, now the only thing, if you look at this, you might say like, yeah, but how are you gonna solder it on? Like soldering it on from the top would definitely be tricky and problematic. So guess what? We're not gonna fucking do that. We are gonna flip it, right? And we'll solder it from the inside, because it's not like this thing is going to be dragged apart by wild horses. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to put a few balls of solder in there and solder it in a few spots so it's nice and attached. And then we'll just proceed with your jump ring and then your little post on the inside for your pearl, just like we normally would. So we'll come back, you know, when we're ready to actually solder. But as you see, I mean, and what did that take? 15 minutes maybe or something, you know? Learning to fix things is a valuable skill. And remember, you only get that by fucking up first. So lean into the destruction, terror, and mayhem, and just think of all the cool stuff you're learning. So you see how I'm heating the little guy underneath first to make sure he's nice and hot. And then I'm going for the top like that. You see that? Hot stuff, man. So you see, you know, we'll put some more solder in there. We're just gonna press it with our fingers so that we have like, you know, the best contact possible. So I threw a couple more balls in there. I'm gonna flow it, we'll look at it. I'll throw a couple more in there. Just, like I said, we don't need to flood it with solder, but I just wanna make sure I've got a good, you know, 3 or 4 contact points so that it's not gonna go anywhere. And you see I'm using a magnesia block, pre-owned magnesia block, so because it already has little dents in it, but you could carve out a nice new one if you wanted. I'm trying to heat the little top cap first a little bit because he's little, and then I can go from the top. See that, how the solder flows? Yeah. Okay, and I'm gonna stick a couple more in there because the only reason that this part isn't super easy, it's just like it's not touching, you know, absolutely perfectly. So you can be a little more like, oh, let me throw a couple more pieces in there. It's not gonna hurt anything, okay? Which I think I'm going to do before we take it and pickle it. So you see how the solder all flowed in there? Looks good. We're gonna pickle it. Look how cute he looks. Look at his little hat. So we're gonna look from the inside and make sure it doesn't need any more little connections or anything, but I think it looks fucking great. And, you know, basically then we're just gonna go and put our bail on, and then we'll put our little post on the inside for our pearl, but I think this looks fucking amazing. So there's the view from the inside. You can see the solder has filled in. It looks pretty good. I'll turn it around, and if I see any other open spaces, I'll add another little piece, but pretty much I think this is a complete success. So we're getting ready now to solder the post inside this beautiful cap that we gave this lovely extra layer to. And we were talking about it off camera. Normally what I do, if I'm doing a cap and I'm gonna do a little post for the pearl, I'm always gonna do it in silver for a gold earring because, like, why does it need to be gold? No one's ever gonna see it. It's a little bit less money, you know? Yay. But if the whole earring were silver, you'd be doing the same thing. Usually what I use is a prefab post, like an earring post for the peg inside a pearl, because they're nice and hard, and there they are, all ready to go. But her pearls were required a little bit thinner, and I didn't have the right post, so we just used regular 20 gauge sterling wire. But just so you know, using a prefab post is like a fast and easy thing that, like, I do that whenever I can. Now, you may also think, like, how big is this fucking pearl, right? Because the wire is so long. Well, normally I leave the wire a little longer than it needs to be, because if you make the wire the right length, then you're trying to, like, get the third arm down in there, and it's just, like, really tricky and annoying. And usually for silver wire, it's not like that stressful to cut some off. So I didn't have to leave it quite this long, but this will make your life a lot easier. Do not cut that to its correct length like this and then try to set that little stinker in there. You'll cuckoo bananas, you know what I'm saying? But this is the method that I use for any normal post. I took a piece of medium solder and laid it flat in there, put a little paste flux. I set this up with the third arm so that it's touching. And when I touch the third arm, nothing bounces. That's how you know it's, like, really making contact. Because sometimes you look at it, you think, oh yeah, it's touching. But if you press it, it moves. Like, there's that tiny little gap in there. So that's usually the method that I say, okay, everything seems cool. And I put it in this pre-owned magnesia block, and I put a little bit of masking mud around the bail. Even though I used 18 karat solder, which melts, you know, the silver should melt a little sooner than that. I'm like, what does it hurt to put a little something on there as a resist? Nothing, so we did. Okay, so it's all in there and ready to go. And then basically, I'm gonna position my heat on the cap, not on the post. That's where everybody goes wrong. They start heating the post. You give that a dirty look, it melts, everybody's mad. Okay, so the whole key with putting a post on safely is you really don't particularly heat the post, you heat the piece. The post generally gets hot enough just by being in the neighborhood. Okay, so I'm gonna do like that. And basically I'm just keeping my eyes peeled on the solder. And you see that?
Oh yeah.
And that's it. Mm-hmm. And you notice I kept my finger on here. Now, it's not that you want to, like, push really hard because it can shift, but I just want to feel it that it's making contact, because it's really common that people set it up and there's actually just the tiniest bit of space. So I'm not pressing hard, but I'm just pressing so that I can feel it. And then I'll move out of the way so Amy can do a little close-up. But basically, you know, you would never have to clean something like that up because no one's going to see it. But we still do it in such a way that it wouldn't require cleanup, because that makes me emotionally feel good.
What's masking mud?
Masking mud, it's like ochre. It's this stuff right here. Basically, it stops anything from flowing. So you can use ochre, you can use masking mud. You can put dirt on it from your backyard. You're making the seam dirty so that it does not want to reflow. Even though technically this should melt at a lower temperature, sometimes when your other seam is, like, right next to it, because when you think about it, you know, the solder seam for that bail is absolutely on the other side of this. So it's like, will it hurt anything to put a little goo on there and then clean it off? No, just as a precautionary measure. Okay, so I'll get up and let Amy do a close-up, and then we'll pickle and take a toothbrush and just clean it up, and then there's nothing to do but put some pearls in there. Yay. But you see what I mean? I mean, it pretty much just looks like your normal, you know, your normal post operation. So you do yourself a favor and remember to leave the piece longer than you need it. It makes it much easier to set up. Like I said, that's probably, doesn't have to be quite that long, but I was like, fuck it. I'm doing a nice long piece because it's so much easier to set up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Look at that. all soldered in and looking pretty. So our post is in. All we have to do now is glue our pearl in, well, and trim our post down.